This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Geez, welcome back, everyone. I feel like a fighter pilot in World War II after shooting down a bunch of enemy planes with that last guest. Oh, jeez. I don't know why people write books, claim they've done research, then they try to flog their book on this show, and their sales, and well, not their sales, but their credibility has more holes in it than a piece of Swiss cheese in Billy Meyer's fridge in Switzerland. I don't understand people. I really don't. But I do understand my guest this hour, the one and only Corey K. from the X-Zone Tech Zone. Hey, Corey K., how are you doing, my man?
I'm doing great tonight. How are you, Rob?
I'm doing pretty good. You know, I thought of you when I had my last guest on because you used to chuckle on when we'd do these guests, and you could see where I was going, and you'd say, "Should I get the shotgun ready?"
Those were good times.
Yeah, they were good times. So, Corey, last time you and I talked briefly about the new the Canadian anti-spam law that's coming out effective July the 1st. I would imagine you've gone deeper into it, and is it as bad as I think it is?
It's not, but this is a major piece of legislation that is going to affect businesses worldwide. Mm-hmm. And there's three really important things that everybody needs to know about the Canadian anti-spam legislation. But just to recap, we are just 13 short days away from it going into effect. And it applies to businesses not just inside of Canada, but to businesses that are sending email messages and installing software on computers inside of Canada from the outside. Mm-hmm. And you have to obtain consent. You need to provide identification information in these electronic messages, just notifying customers of who you are. And you have to provide an unsubscribe mechanism, and we can talk about all of that in detail tonight.
I'm looking forward to that because, as you know, Corey, we are here in Canada. We do a lot of business to people outside of Canada as well as inside of Canada. Now, the way that you read the Canadian anti-spam legislation, if we are sending emails from Canada outside, do we still have to comply with this CASL?
Well, it's mainly the jurisdiction is for Canadian customers. So if you're inside of Canada mm-hmm. and sending messages to customers outside, the rules may be a little bit different. But we'll definitely get into that.
Sure.
And
I understand, Corey, from a number of people that I spoke to, as well as the Canadian government, that this is one of the toughest anti-spam pieces of legislation in the world.
Oh, absolutely. There are penalties up to $10 million for violating this. It's serious business.
Yeah, and this is one time where the directors of a company are not protected under a corporate shield because an individual can be fined up to $10 million, a company up to individual $1 million, company $10 million, and then each director $10 million.
It's scary. And what's interesting is even with this extensive legislation, there are some little known loopholes that I can tell you about. So you never know, and this law may need to be amended in the future.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm sure it will be amended. It's like, it seems that what the Canadian government is trying to do is to cut down on marketing using the email, as the Canadian anti-spam legislation, as a way of getting more business to use the snail mail again, because Canada Post, which is owned by the Canadian government, has lost a lot of money because of electronic mail. So I'm saying, and this is only my thinking, that by putting the CASL into effect, people are going to have to market using the good old reliable snail mail or faxing again.
Yeah, that is a possibility, and it's interesting to read the actual legislation because right at the top it says an act to promote or regulate certain activities that discourage reliance on electronic means of carrying out commercial activities.
Mm-hmm. It's going to affect a lot of small business people, and you and I will be talking about the Canadian anti-spam legislation this hour here in the X Zone. My special guest is my good friend, the one and only Corey Kay, who's the gentleman behind the X Zone Tech Zone. And Corey and I will be back on the other side of this commercial break as we continue from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to send an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, and you can always check us out on any of the social media sites. One simple address, X Zone Radio TV, and our main website where you can go and listen to archives, www.xzoneradiotv.com. I'm Rob McConnell. Corey Kay is with me this hour, and we'll both be back on the other side of this break. Don't you dare go away. Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses by Brad Olson, consummates the lifology story about where humanity originates. It is the lost continents, the primitive wisdom, the mythos of creation, and the rethinking of ancient history as we are taught in academia. There is much more to the story than what we have been told. As this is the first book in the Esoteric series, Modern Esoteric starts at the beginning of time and accelerates up to this modern age. Future Esoteric is book 2 in the series and takes a forward-looking position ahead of today with an open and honest examination of the ET issue and various unexplained phenomena. To discover the writings of author Brad Olson, visit www.bradolson.com. That's www.bradolson.com. Named one of the world's greatest psychics, Elizabeth Joyce is now giving readings worldwide via Skype. Elizabeth Joyce is recognized for her clairvoyant ability to help find missing persons, her analysis of dreams, past life regression work, mediumship, and her accurate predictions. Elizabeth has been a frequent guest on the X Zone radio show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, now for several years. For an appointment with Elizabeth Joyce, call 201-934-8986 or Skype at elizabeth.joyce. And for more information, you can always visit Elizabeth Joyce online at www.new-visions.com.
Do you have a dis-ease that you would like to alleviate through a natural means? Have you been contacted by angels, ghosts, or even extraterrestrials and want to validate these experiences? Or would you simply like to speak with someone who can help you find your life's purpose? I'm Dr. Joseph Mara, and I'm offering my services free of charge for first-time clients contacting me during the month of April. These free consultations include angel card readings, guided meditations, life coaching, and energy healing. If you have always wanted to explore these types of experiences but were skeptical or simply could not afford them, then take advantage of this free special offer. Contact me through my website, aguidinglight, spelled LITE.com, to schedule your consultation today. Until then, I offer you love, light, and laughter.
Welcome back, everyone. Corey K is my special guest. And Corey is the gentleman behind the X-Zone Tech Zone, www.xzonetechzone.com. Hey, Corey, speaking about websites, you know what I found out? Remember our old Talkstar radio?
Oh, yeah.
They're gone.
Surprise,
they are
surprise.
Okay, that's enough. All right, let's get back to the topic of the hour, my good friend, the Canadian anti-spam legislation that goes into effect on July the 1st. It's going to greatly affect anyone who receives emails here in Canada because, first of all, the person sending the email has to have consent. If you don't have consent and you send somebody an email that has any commercial content, for example, this is a great website where I found the best pricing for traveling. Here's the link. Unless you get the person's consent, you can't send them that email. Now, if it's a member of the family, that's one thing. But it's really tightening the noose around the neck of many of small businesses, Corey. And what did you find out during your research into this piece of work?
Well, you bring up a good point. It is going to be much harder for a small business to comply than a larger business, and the penalties are going to be prohibitive for small businesses that don't comply. But if you're a small business out there and you want to know how you can comply, the number one thing you need to do is start keeping records of this consent. Now, the law mentions express consent and implied consent.
Right.
So implied consent can still exist, but I'll tell you where it gets really tricky. The implied consent only applies to customers that you've had a business relationship in the last 2 years. So if somebody bought a product from you 3 years ago and you send them a message and you hadn't obtained express consent to send that mail before, then you're not covered by the law because you haven't had a business relationship that's provable in the last 2 years. So I don't think people should take chances with implied consent. I think you should go for express consent. And I know in the past, a lot of companies, they would make the customer opt out of whatever solicitation they were offering. So the default was to make customers opt out. That has all changed. You need to, by default, let the customers opt in, and that's the safest way to protect yourself if you're a small business.
Okay, so if somebody is using one of the online services, for example, like Constant Contact.
Yep.
Now, their list that they have with Constant Contact, they send out newsletters or whatever. If the person is already a member on Constant Contact, does this mean that this person is all right, that they don't have to worry about the CSL?
It depends on when they basically gave their consent. If they gave their consent within 2 years, they're okay. I'm going to review the exact wording, but the wording of the most recent version of the legislation implies that even within 3 years, you might be okay. But if that consent was given more than 3 years ago, it's better to protect yourself, reobtain that consent, and keep a record of it.
Now, how